All right, I am going to start. So, thanks everyone for coming onto my stream. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the support. Um, I'm kind of still a baby with this, pretty new, but you know, I'm obviously trying to do my best to give you my analysis. Hopefully, it's relatively accurate. Um, we could probably start talking about, we could just go straight to it, to be honest. So yeah, we could talk about Bitcoin. Um, Bitcoin has been front running me a couple of times on the short, which is quite funny. And I just had this feeling that um, the next time we're actually gonna get our entry hit, it's probably gonna just hover around there. Reason I say that is because obviously we had this low down here on the 10th of March, so a couple of days ago. Um, Perfectly tested the 76,500 level, and then obviously since then we've kind of had this upward trend. Bitcoin did manage to hold a higher low, which is really good. So it is a good sign. It's a good sign that, the bulls are stepping in when they need to step in. What could have easily happened is that we would have essentially lost this low here at 79k and lost this low at 76,000 and retested that large weekly level that I've been eyeing up. But the bulls stepped in for now. And so obviously we had that nice pump. Now, from an Elliott wave perspective, this rally that we've had from this low here, I still see it as a free wave move. And you guys might or might not notice, but I'm always looking for a 5-wave move, because when we get a 5-wave move up, that's normally good confirmation that we should hopefully get a pullback and then hopefully continue higher. But we haven't really seen that. This to me is not a 5-wave move. This is quite evidently a 3-wave move. You could argue down here, is this a 5-wave move? Doesn't really look right for me, to be honest. You've kind of got like minimum requirements for a 5-wave move. So someone could obviously argue and say, oh yeah, but you've got wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. That 5th wave is way too short for me, to be honest. And that 3-wave move also, I'd like to see it go higher. So, if we look at this on a slightly larger time frame, what we could potentially get on the larger time frame is a larger 5-wave move like this. This is what I'd like to see if we're going to have bullish continuation. This is why I set a short here, but obviously I basically said to make sure that, our entry is relatively small at this point. Unfortunately, it did get front run here. I was kind of hoping that we would take this short, but we got front run by like, I don't know, it was like $100, something stupid, which is really annoying. That was definitely a really nice short. But I'm still short, so I am in a short at the moment. However, I do see possible upside continuation, at least to about $86,400, which is kind of where my main entry is going to be. The reason I say that is because this is pretty much like a relatively large area of resistance here. We kind of hovered around here for a couple of days previously, 2-3 days, before then obviously falling through to much lower levels. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still targeting going heavy on my short around this region. Once we do reach this region, then I believe the CME gap will also be filled. How I've drawn this structure at the moment, in terms of it being a triangle, is just kind of like more foresight. So I always say that for something to be valid, or any trend line to be valid, you should have at least 3 touch points. So in this scenario, we do have 3 touch points. We've got 1, 2, 3. What I might be expecting is that we also get another touch point, maybe on the weekend. So maybe on the weekend, or later today, but I would probably say, maybe in the middle of Saturday, potentially, we would get a move to the 86,000 region. There is going to be a lot of resistance up here. This is heavy resistance here. So you guys know where my stop loss is. I think I said 1 hour or 4 hour candle close. Can't remember. I'll have to double check. I would probably have this as a 4 hour candle close. So if I said 1 hour, change that. It should be 4 hour. Purely because I would say that when we reach this area of resistance, we're going to probably get quite a lot of volatility. This, I suspect, the bears are not going to let go easily. We already came to. I should probably have put a line here, but this is also a level of resistance. I might make these not as fat because they're a little bit fat, these lines. Yeah, this is also a level of resistance because we have this previous low here. So this is essentially an area of resistance. I do, as I said, I do potentially see Bitcoin going 2 ways here. Either we break through this resistance and come to this main area of resistance. This area here is essentially where you might expect a rejection. And then we might see it go back down, and then it might potentially pump and go to like 90, 95k. Or the other possibility is now we kind of just hover around here and then go back down and break this trend. I don't particularly see Bitcoin doing that right now because we do seem to have some bullish momentum, but I would say definitely in this weekend we wanna see get into 86,000, 86,500, around about that area, for us to try and at least test this upper trend line here. So at the moment I can't really say what may happen, but again, it's always a probability, right? We had a good day today, a lot of things pumped. I am still targeting around 86,400, possible rejection, but I think if we sustain above that, and obviously we break my stop loss, and we close above it on the 4 hourly, that may be a hint that we are going to be continuing upwards. Now, just because we may continue upwards, I'm still not 100% confident that we would be out of the woods. What we could probably do is we could probably take trend line here. So we look at potential areas of resistance. We know that 92,000 was an area of resistance. Told you guys to take a really nice short from there. Obviously I was maybe not as confident as I should have been because that ended up being a really, really, really good short. But yeah, that is going to be the area to break for us to continue higher to where I believe Bitcoin could go for this cycle. Now, I'm not saying it will go here to the 130, 140k region, but it would just look better with that final push up I think I told you guys last time that I pretty much see this as a three-wave move at the moment, and we're in this kind of corrective pullback. So we've got this large wave one, wave two. It's here. Sorry, I'm using a mouse pad, which is probably not the best thing right now, but anyway. And then we've got this three-wave move up here, fourth wave, and then final wave. Obviously, this wave one, we have multiple subwaves in there, but there's probably better ways to count this. But I, at the end of the day, it's basically just going to look better with one more push up. I think I did this last time, but if I take my Fibonacci retracement and we go from the high to the low, we see our target zone. Our target zone is around 130 to 140k for this final push up. And as I mentioned last time, we perfectly hit the 100% Fibonacci retracement area, just over 100,000. So yeah, now I always say the 786 is kind of the area of trend reversal. If we look here, this 93, 92 area, it's pretty much where that's going to sit. So really, for, as I said, for bullish continuation, we need to break that 92,000 level. Even better, breaking above the 95k region, which is basically the top of this trend line that I've drawn here. So basically breaking above this point. I'll also add this on here as well. I think I previously had it. Breaking above 95k. So first we need to break above 92, and then 95 for me to be relatively confident that we will be going to 130/140k at least. Once we do break above these levels, so once we do break above 95k, what I want to see is that we break above, possibly breaking above this previous high at 99k, come down for a retest potentially. Don't have to come down all the way back to 95k. I wouldn't expect it to, but I would be looking to take a long trade here. Or if you want to be a little bit more risky, once we actually break above 95k and say we get, you know, like 2-3 hourly closes, then you could enter at current market price. And I mean, what we really should be doing for the long term, if you want to hold Bitcoin for the long term and you believe that we will be going a lot higher for this cycle, is obviously you could be accumulating. This is still a decent area to accumulate, but obviously myself and probably quite a few other people are still anticipating one more low. We're all anticipating this final low until we reverse. Now, as I said, if these parameters are all met and Bitcoin breaks out of them, it makes that one more low very unlikely. Now, Bitcoin does tend to go towards areas of high liquidity and basically do its grabbing, but it may not. You know, the market makers may just front run us because there's so many people sitting down here thinking, you know, I want to grab Bitcoin at 73, 74k. And you know, they might just say, screw you, I'm just gonna front run you. I'm not convinced yet. I haven't got a lot of evidence to suggest that that is going to be the case. But yeah, that at the moment is how I'm looking at this. At the moment, Bitcoin's obviously sitting, you know, basically around our entry point for our short, and we'll just see how that plays out. You know, I'm not looking to long. You know, I know some people might want to long from here until 86k, because there is a good chance we will see that. You can. I'm just not risking it at the moment because we are still under resistance. 84 to 86k is resistance, so I'm not going to long resistance. It's just not what I want it to do. If I was going to long, it would have been potentially around the take profit areas actually, of where the short was actually going to be. So yeah, it might have been a good time to long from 79k. But again, I'm looking at it more long term. I'd rather just take a short that gives me slightly better reward risk ratio. That's just the way I trade. Absolutely no problem with people wanting to, take that long trade. Taking that long trade would have been fine. Absolutely no problem. But we all have different trading strategies, so that's just mine. I'll either say I'm doing like a scalp, or I'll say, look, this is kind of something that I want to hold for a while. Like when I bought Link at like $9, $10, and I was like, we should hold this to like $50, and it went up to like $38. I think I mentioned to everyone that it's probably a good time to take some off the table. So that was a good 3x. So that's my analysis on Bitcoin at the moment. Possibly more upside to the 86.5k area before rejection. However, we are still at resistance. We did have a good pump. That pump was a 3-wave move. I am expecting a pullback before we continue, if we continue higher. And remember, 3-wave moves, when that 4th wave is taking place, a lot of the time it fails. And when that move fails, you end up falling back down a lot lower. And then obviously it has to try to form another 5-wave move and gets to 3 waves and fails. So that is a pattern that you will see relatively often. Good example actually is here, where we had this pump. So we had pump from the 78k area to about 86, back down. So that's wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and then we pulled back. This is it's quite deep wave 4, to be honest. Couldn't break above 95k. Couldn't break above it. So that this was I was planning to short here because we had lost that range that we'd been in for like I don't know how many months it was. It was ages. It's like 2 months, something like that. Yeah, it was a while. It was a while, and we lost that. And I wasn't expecting Bitcoin to just bounce up, and the bears were just gonna let that go. And yeah, we had a swing failure pattern occur. So yeah, that's pretty much where the failure took place, and then obviously we made a new low. And that was our 3-wave move that essentially failed. Anyway, enough talking about Bitcoin. It's pretty much how I see Bitcoin. Let's jump onto that piece of crap, ETH. I give ETH a lot of hate because, to be honest, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in ETH anymore. I think it's I think XRP is pretty much caught up with it or catching up with it. I can't remember. I need to double check, but it's crazy. And ETH, I've said this before, ETH has like really just not performed very well throughout this entire bull run. I keep seeing like jokes on Twitter where people are just like, oh my God, I bought like ETH, how many years ago? And it's like at the same price it was like fucking however long ago. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's pretty much at the same price it was like November 2023. Right? That's like a year and 4 months ago. So if you're holding ETH for like a year, 4 months, and you didn't sell, you're just holding it, because you're just hodling, you would have basically made zero. Bitcoin, on the other hand, you would have made some good dollar. You know, people holding from 2022, end of 2022, when it was like 17,000, you know, went to 100K. I mean, Bitcoin has definitely outperformed ETH. And ETH has been seriously disappointing. What's worrying about ETH is that, you know, I see these altcoins pumping. I see Bitcoin pump. ETH doesn't move. Like, I swear it just doesn't move. Like, it barely moves. And to be honest, you know, alt season doesn't start. At least this is how the tradition goes. Alt season does not start until Ethereum starts outperforming Bitcoin and pumping and moving, and then Ethereum will bring the entire alts with it. I am not seeing that at the moment. I will be convinced that we may see alt season start once Ethereum can get back over this trend line, back into this triangle. You kind of call it a triangle, and then, you know, maybe this is our top. Maybe this is our top for Ethereum. So, you know, if we really think that Ethereum is gonna have its run, we are gonna see $6,000 to $7,000 Ethereum. $6,000 to $7,000. You can see the 100% Fibonacci retracement is pretty much almost bang on at the previous high of around 4.9K. So, you know, Ethereum has a lot to do. It has a lot to make up for, you know. It has to get back over that trend line. It has to break above the previous high. Yeah, you know, I mean, everyone was kind of saying that this bull run is going to be over by May. I don't think it's going to be over by May. To be honest, I don't even think it's going to start by May, because everyone was like, it's definitely going to happen by May. We need to sell all our coins at May, and that's the end of it. Personally, Trump at the moment is kind of like messing about, right? So there's this whole thing with inflation, this whole thing with like having to pay debt back. He wants to pay it at a much lower interest rate. Jerome Powell's like, no, sorry, it's not happening. And essentially, from what I know, Trump is trying to force a recession. Now, that obviously will push the interest rates down. And then that is where Trump is going to want to step in and say, fine. And he's going to try and pay back the debt, right? But obviously, the stock market suffered, may continue to suffer, right? And obviously that will inadvertently cause Bitcoin to suffer. Now, I don't see a clear path of what's going to happen in the next few months with the possible recession. War news is always affecting stocks. You know, with Russia and Ukraine, you know, Israel and Palestine, you know, it's just, there's always some crazy shit going on, right? So we don't know what's going to happen. But back to Ethereum, what we do know is that Ethereum had this trend line since June 2022 and it lost it. Now, do I expect Ethereum to maybe retest it again? I would like to see that. If we go on the 4-hour, we can see that when Ethereum broke that trend line, it retested, failed, 3-wave move, retested, failed, lower low, and we're just kind of accumulating here. we've not even broken out of this range yet, right? So on the lower time frame, you can see Ethereum is essentially still in this range. It hasn't even broken above the previous high yet. Previous high being at like $1,960. So yeah, I don't know. Ethereum's got a lot to do against Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been running the show. We're just gonna have to see what happens. What I can say though is that Link, which you guys know, is basically one of my favorite coins. Just clean this up a bit. So yeah, I mean, it was brilliant because I kind of chickened out this a little bit. I put the trade out there and I was like, oh yeah, maybe, you know, worrying about other people and them losing money. And it turns out like I think it pretty much hit. It hit the TPs that I had in mind. I hadn't drawn this all the way because $14 was my initial TP, but 14 and $14.5 was the second TP. Pretty much hit that. So that was a nice trade. If anyone actually went against me saying, get out of it, I'm too worried. I am trying to be a little bit more confident in my trades because a lot of the time they do play out. Not all the time. I have a funded account at the moment and it's got like a 75-80% win rate. It's probably less than my normal win rate because I'm kind of messing about on it a bit too much, but generally things go well. So I will obviously try to be a little bit more confident next time. What we can see, and this is a Fibonacci retracement that I drew a little while ago. It was like, yeah, start of March. We have come to the 50% Fibonacci level. Now, $14.71 for Link is going to act as resistance. I think we pretty much, if you look at the top, what the high was, $14.71, I mean, pretty much bang on, tap that. So $14.71, and I would say the golden pocket area, 61.8, $15.38 is going to act as resistance for Link. Yeah, I mean, not too much else to say about Link. Again, I do see this as a three-wave move still. So, I do see this as a three-wave move. If we take our fib, yeah, 100% fib retracement level literally is lining up with the higher time frame 50% retracement level. So this is kind of acting as resistance, and the next area of resistance, you can see it pretty much. You know what, Link is so nice to trade because the chart is so clear a lot of the time. You get these charts like Popcat and Fartcoin and bullshit and whatever. I don't find the chart clear, but when I look at Link almost 99.9% of the time always follows fib levels really well, supply and demand zones really well. It's just a clean chart to trade. So yeah, we know the areas of resistance, possibly 14.7 to 15.4-ish dollars. That's pretty much our resistance. We have formed only a three-wave move. What we might see from Link, we may continue higher, or we might get a small pullback to $14 that we have now possibly reclaimed, and then see upside continuation. You could potentially trade this. A little bit risky, but you could potentially trade this. $14 has kind of been the area for Link to hold. As you can see previously, it failed to hold it, retested, failed, had a little deviation here. Couldn't hold this. I think this was when the Trump crazy pump, whatever madness was happening. And then obviously, again, deviation and drop below. So yeah, I mean, $14 is kind of the area to hold. If we do fall back to $14, um, you could potentially take a trade. I would probably keep stop loss relatively tight. Um, Probably around 13.73, and then I would target the upper resistance zone to give you a decent 5.38 risk reward ratio. That is just what I would personally do with Link. Um, yeah, I mean, to be honest, Link is borderline outperforming Ethereum. I think everything is at this point. I think everything's outperforming Ethereum. Um, even coins on its own chain. Um, but yeah, so that is Link, and long term wise, I mean, I still see Link doing quite well in the long run. Um, you know, Previous all-time high was obviously around $50. Do I see Link going there? I was initially targeting a lot higher. We are still holding this trend line, this weekly trend line. If we look at this is super like high time frame. We are still holding it. We could obviously possibly go a little bit lower before we go higher. But you know, could we test $11 next week? I think if things go balls up, maybe, and Bitcoin just drops from this point, can't break past resistance, and we go to like 73K and tap that liquidity and go up, maybe. But could the low be in for Link at this point? Possibly, yes. So as long as we're holding this weekly time frame trend line, we are potentially looking at higher. You can see that Link broke out of this triangle, retested, failed because we fell back through pretty much in the mid-range of the triangle. We're at the apex. This obviously is becoming more of a squeeze. Now, I've always watched Link as a kind of prophecy, as a guidance to what potentially might happen. But we are gonna see some big moves. Personally, I think this is personal opinion. I think we're gonna see some big moves from all altcoins, from Bitcoin, in the next 1 to 3 months, max. I'd say probably 1 to 2 months, max. We're gonna see some big moves. Um, so yeah, for targets for Link, obviously initial target is going to be that previous high at $30. Surpassing that, next target makes logical sense. It's $50. It's going to be a lot of profit taking if we get to that. So I would anticipate a substantial drop. It's going to act as very, very large resistance. And this is the weekly, so we may go up and test that level, break it, and go up to $50, come back down, range, break down, and bear market lows, or make a new all-time high, $90, which is where I was initially targeting, and then bye bye, see you later, we're entering bear market. So yeah, I think these next couple of months are going to be really, really key to see what happens. So that is Link. If you guys are obviously enjoying what I'm doing, just please let me know. It's good to have some feedback. It's just good to know that people are actually gaining some form of knowledge out of this. And if there's obviously anything that I can clarify, also let me know. Now I'm just going to go through a couple of different things that I wanted to go through. So USDT dominance. Now, we all know, or we should know, which is why I'm here to tell you. USDT dominance when USDT dominance drops, that means there is less USDT that people are holding, and it's, in the market. So when we see USDT dominance go down, win-win. We want that. We want it. We want alt season. We've been crying for it for ages. This is what we want. Now, USDT at the moment, if we kind of zoom in a little bit here, there was this trend line that I was watching on USDT dominance. We have broken below it. So we have broken below it here. Now, this candle looks like we've retested that trend line and failed. We've not got back over this trend line yet. So if we just take a normal fib retracement, have I drawn that nicely? Yeah, it's about right. It's about right here. So we pretty much were hovering. We were hovering on top of that 38.2 retracement, fib retracement area. We did have a swing failure pattern here, so we couldn't get above this high. And now obviously we've dropped through. Now this could be a sign that we might see alts have a little bit of a run. Bitcoin might have a little bit of a run as well. But we need to just be very, very careful here, because just because we've fallen out of this trend line doesn't necessarily mean that we're just gonna, fall and retest the 50%, retest the 618. It's not necessarily the case. We need to just be careful here, because I say this because this line here that I will highlight in Bearpole. This line here is acting as some form of support, and we're potentially losing it, but we need to watch this area carefully. You can see previously this was acting as resistance, so we tapped it, broke through, broke back down, tapped it, wick, back down, broke through, held, went up, and now it's retested, may or may not hold. So be careful. Be careful. I personally am not taking any trades other than the Bitcoin short that I have, which has a very small amount in at the moment. Remember, I always say 3 to 5% for every trade. Don't go crazy. Don't fall port. Please don't fall port. I know it's tempting. And it's great, when you see like your $5 turn into like $5,000 in like 5 seconds, but then it will turn into zero in half a second. So be sensible. Risk management is key. I've literally only got, I think it was like 30% of my full position for this Bitcoin short in this at the moment. And obviously the other 70% is going to be if we probably hit 86,400. So that's the game plan here. Let's see. Let me just look at the chat. Oh, you know what? I'm so glad that someone made some decent money on that link trade. I'm so glad. I'm so glad, because I should have not been a chicken shit and actually stayed with my own trade. Which is what everyone has been telling me, to have a bit more confidence. Sorry, I literally just saw that message now about the fibs on link. Janice R, no worries. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. Let's quickly go back to link. I know you guys are probably so bored of me putting link up, but you know what? It's such a nice coin to trade, and if you make money out of it, who cares, right? Literally, who cares? No one cares. I don't care what we trade as long as we make money out of it. That's kind of the point here. You know what I mean? So yeah, so the fib um the fib retracement here that I've taken was pretty much from top to low. Um, you can do it the other way around. It doesn't really matter too much. You just have to kind of look at your level slightly differently. But this is pretty much how I do it. So take a fib from the top to the bottom, and then this, your 50%, and typically your 618 is going to act as your resistance. Um, Normally, I always say this, I'll say it again, 786, that is basically the zone where if we break above that, there is a good chance that we will have trend reversal. Um, I say that's the case like pretty much always, right? So I don't know. Let's just take a random area on Link where we take this low up to this high. So I'm taking this low down here up to this high, and you see here initially, I'll point out here we reacted to this 382. Sorry, let me remove this one so it's a little bit more clear. So here we reacted to 382, bounced, didn't get above that high, swing failure pattern, fell through. To be honest, we literally fell through 50%, and even the 618, which was pretty surprising, right? But here you can see we attempted to bounce. We attempted to bounce at the 786 because 786 is kind of like it's your last chance. You break that, sorry, you break that, that's it. Pretty much forget about it. Um, and that's what we did, right? And this is kind of where I thought, okay, this is pretty much it. We're gonna go down a lot further. What happened at this point was interesting because we actually broke under this previous low, right? So let me just get rid of that fib. We broke under the previous low. This was the low, this was the low, and we broke under it. Now, this is something that, I suppose we all probably should foresee, especially as analysts, is that um, we didn't really have a candle close below those lows, and I probably was a bit premature and thought, okay, this is where we short. That was my mistake. Um, I think I was like super busy at work and probably wasn't concentrating. But that was a mistake on my part. Always look for at least a couple of candle closes below a wick. That's kind of rule of thumb here. Um, what happened is that this here is what we call a deviation, right? So, people's stop losses are going to be like here. People are going to be trading this like, oh yeah, um, I'm going to go long and like I'm going to just have my stop loss just below the previous wick, right? So you can imagine people are like, okay, I'm going to trade this. I'm going to trade this double bottom. I'm going to have my stop loss like just below the previous wick. This is a liquidity grab. This basically stopped a bunch of people out. And what happened after that? That's what happened. Um, yeah, it's kind of nasty. It happens. It happens. It's market makers. You can't really do too much about it. But what you can do is that when you start seeing a candle close above, for instance, this candle close here, marginally higher than the previous candle closes. But what I would want to see is I wanted to see like a candle close above. I wasn't monitoring this much, so I don't think I went long. But you want to see a candle close above previous highs. Candle close above previous high, and nothing wrong with going long here at current market price. Setting your stop loss might be a little bit challenging, because it's kind of like, well, where would you set your stop loss? Probably would have set my stop loss around about here, just below this area that you can see was acting as like the $14 mark, which was pretty much acting as resistance. I probably would have set stops just here and played this setup out to get to the previous high. And still half decent risk reward ratio. That's pretty much what we're looking for, right? We're not looking for trades that, I don't know, like your stop loss is like here and you want to trade that. I mean, it's not really worth it, do you know what I mean? You're potentially almost gaining as much as you might be losing. It's not really worth it. That's why I like swing trades, because, we want to look for trades that give us the most reward with the least amount of risk. One that I have been eyeing up and still interested in, to be fair, is H bar. H bar is in a very, very interesting area for me. The reason I say this is because I have seen this time and time and again with H bar, where we break out of a trend. That's not what I wanted. We break out of a trend line, and we end up just like flying at this point. Now, this could have been a nice trade. I'm kind of a bit late, to be honest. I'm a bit late because what I wanted to do was, see this trend line, 618 fib. This is a daily 618 fib. Broke out relatively aggressively. Came back down to retest previous lows. Went up. 50% retracement fib levels acting as resistance. So we're kind of bouncing in this area. It's not massively late. What I would have liked to have done is I would have liked to have longed probably here. But you can still technically trade this, right? So you can obviously trade this with your stops relatively tight. So stops could be round about here, 17 cents. Target all the way up until 40 cents. I might even trade this. I might call this as a trade, because the risk to reward ratio is relatively good. You get very good reward and very little risk. So this might actually be a setup that I send in the signals area. We'll be keeping an eye on it. We are obviously potentially going to be ranging a little bit. And we obviously need to sometimes be careful about liquidity grabs. That's why I tend to not have a hard stop loss. I have a soft stop loss, because can you imagine that, we take this trade and, H bar does a little bit of dancing around, liquidity grab, and then boom. We're going to be pretty pissed off, right? So that's why normally I say 4-hour candle close below. That's when, yeah, cut the trade. But in crypto, we see wicks all the time. Capitulation wicks all the time. It's just unfortunately something you see a lot. There's a lot of market makers with a lot of dollar, and they want to get, their limit orders hit. So it's a lot of manipulation that happens in crypto. We have to be careful, which is why make sure you don't have too much risk. Make sure your position size is definitely below 5% for every single trade you do. Don't full port. You will get wrecked. You will see your balance completely just disappear. I've had it done to myself when I was reckless, blown a lot of money. It happens though. It's a learning process, right? One thing in crypto is definitely try to control your emotions. That's kind of the one piece of advice I'll give you guys. If you feel like you've missed something, don't chase it. Don't chase price. Okay? That is like the worst possible thing you can do. You missed a trade, you miss a trade. You know what? There's going to be another trade. There's going to be another trade the next day, or if not the next day after that. You will not have to wait long for another trade. Just remember that. Never chase price. You missed it, you missed it. That's it. Don't worry about it. That's the best piece of advice I could give you guys. Don't jump into a trade. You know, if you guys want to do it, you want to do it, fine. But remember, it's high risk. It's high risk when you do that. So just be prepared to lose whatever you're putting into that trade. Right. What else am I gonna look at? What I wanted to look at was Doge or Doggy or whatever name it has now. Whatever name it has now. Um, so there was this trend line that I was watching on Doggy. It did briefly break below it here. There was a wick below it. I was watching this 14, 14.4, sorry, 0.144 cent line. We did touch it, which was, and the reason that that was important is you could see that it was acting as support. So this was previously resistance, a few wicks above it, broke out, retest, flew, retest. So it's kind of expected, right? It's expected. I mean, you can see that these are almost equal lows. Like this is 0.142, this is 0.142, you know, barely any difference here, right? So you can expect to have gone about. This was a really good trade. Again, this is another one I missed because I didn't have my alert set on this line, which was pretty dumb. But this again, this, why do I keep choosing that? It's not the one I want. Where is it? Yeah, where is it? This one? Yeah, no, this one. Okay, definitely don't want my stop loss to be that big. Yeah, this would have been a really nice trade. Really nice trade. Even if it was just a little scalp, even a little scalp like this, where we reached like previous highs. I would like to see Doggy continue to go up. However, I'm not too convinced at the moment. It's definitely not one of the stronger looking charts at the moment. I would say we have to reclaim this 20 cent / 22 cent area before we kind of get a little bit happy that we might continue. Even better, 30 cent area. But yeah, we're still kind of in this region where it is possible that we can have one more low. But fibs are a friend, so take a fib, low to high. Yeah, I mean, what do I say? I always say that the 786 is kind of trend reversal area, right? Doggy just needs to make sure that it stays above this level. Below this level, I definitely see us going lower. Even retesting kind of like the 10 cent, 9-10 cent range. That would obviously mean that we break below this trend line. You know, we could break below this trend line, but I mean, this is a buy zone. This is a buy zone here. You know what I mean? I would not fade this, definitely. I mean, all of this area here is basically a buy zone, you know? So yeah, definitely don't fade this. If we get Doggy come down here, yeah, I mean, I would buy it. So yeah, I mean, there's not too much more to talk about really. I guess we just need to keep an eye on Bitcoin for the rest of the weekend, because that's obviously all we do in life. But you could see, yeah, you can see that Bitcoin is potentially going to try to get that 86,400 level. Again, as I said, a lot of liquidity there. CME gap almost filled, but I reckon we may see it go there. Potentially by the weekend. Weekend, you don't tend to see massive moves. You don't tend to see massive moves, but don't quote me on that because sometimes we do. But a lot of the time we don't. So we might just see a little run up. Grab that liquidity, and then we will see. We will see, can Bitcoin break past and at least retest 92K? Or is it just gonna reject and break back down? That we don't know. That's why I have my stop loss set for the short. And I will let you guys know if I'm gonna obviously flip long, because this is kind of like your pivot point. You know, I probably will just go long just for a quick scalp. I say quick scalp. My quick scalps are like a day or two. I know most people's quick scalps are like 5 minutes, but you know what I mean. But yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what Bitcoin gives us on the weekend. I'll obviously be monitoring it as much as I can. Any changes that I see, I'll let you guys know. Any juicy looking coins or any trades that I see other than Bitcoin or Link, of course. I do look at other coins, but Link, like HBAR, like Doggy, like Sui, etc. I do, but obviously time is sometimes of the essence. But I will keep you guys posted. I hope today was informative. We've reached the hour. Any questions, just let me know. And have a great rest of the evening. So, peace out, guys.